everyone. Welcome back to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Hi, JJ.
Yeah.
I'm Linda Bruno. That's JJ Wilson. And we've got a new member to the Voiceover Gurus crew.
Who is it? Who is it?
It's David Hughes. Say hi, David.
Oh, I know him.
Hi, David.
So David is adding his production abilities as a guru. So everybody that comes and asks questions and needs help with their home studio setup, he is the guy. So he's easy to book.
The cool thing about David is that he's a voiceover talent, a very good one. He's a producer. He's a great director. I mean, when I work with David, and we do 99%, we do car spots together. I don't know. He's just got what it takes to be a director. There's always something special that comes out during our sessions, and he and I have talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
And he's a production god. He sits next to Zeus in between the guy with the lightning bolt.
No pressure
any
on you,
questions
David.
you have about anything? No, none whatsoever. I have no respect for you at all.
So you're going to be available to help people via Skype or Zoom because David's down in Florida. So location doesn't matter. You need some help with your home studio. He's going to be the guy that you can book through our website. So David, just tell us a little bit about your production company just so we can get a...
How tall are you, David?
How tall are you?
Thank you for the introduction. That's a lot to live up to. Thank you very much.
I know. Sorry.
I've been in this business for about 30 years now. 30 years as of January, in fact. And I work on both sides of the microphone, and we do quite a bit.
Which is so helpful.
It helps me, I think, understand what's going on the other side of the microphone when I'm directing a talent. It does.
Yeah.
I think it makes it easier for everyone involved.
Yeah, because you can look at it from our perspective.
A lot of it, I think, is making somebody comfortable behind the mic. It's okay for somebody to walk into a session with butterflies. It's okay for somebody to walk into a session not having an idea what is going to take place during the session. But it comes...
Sure.
Which is always...
Things do tend to take turns, yes.
Yes.
That's very helpful for all parties involved to get the best product and to get the best track recorded. And JJ will tell you, Linda, and Linda will tell you, JJ. We like to get a lot of options in the can. And we like to have fun, too. And
yes.
And I like to try and make that come through, if anything. It's
And David doesn't overdo it.
Yeah.
He's a producer-director who doesn't need 60 takes of something in order to use take two.
maybe 3.
No.
Maybe 3 takes.
You know?
Maybe 3 takes.
Maybe 3. Maybe, Well, in his world, you have to be because he's ranking out the car spots by the hundreds.
You're very efficient, David. You're very efficient. But let me tell you, that efficiency, as we've discussed before on the show, is like a gold mine because heaven knows you have the producers that are out there, or maybe just clients that don't know what they're doing, that put you through these hellacious sessions.
All my clients are fantastic.
It exists. It exists. Hey, I have a question for you, David. What is the longest session you've had to do with a talent to coach them into the right spot?
Generally, if we haven't gotten to it in a fair amount of time, we might have to rethink it. And there's really no shame for anybody involved at that point either. We're dealing with a form of alchemy. Everything has to kind of blend together. And I think we know pretty quick the direction we're going to take. And we can usually tell if we're going to get there and figure out how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
So,
Good point.
If we haven't started to dial it in a few takes in, we might need to take a different approach.
Like a big long break.
Another talent.
A break can help. A break can help. A break can help.
Yep.
A break can transform a performance. 5 minutes just away from the microphone can make a difference.
Yep.
I wouldn't hesitate to ask for that. If I was a talent in a session and needed a moment, for whatever reason, whether it's to get a drink of water or just to step away from the microphone and clear one's head, it takes an enormous amount of concentration to do a voiceover. In a lot of cases, there are a lot of scripts that need a heavy level of concentration and focus, and a break can help. Sure.
Yep.
Oh, that's a
David,
good point.
I have a question. Have you ever hired somebody from their demo and then you get them in on the session and they're nothing like their demo? They cannot live up to it?
Generally, no. I would say that a good demo demonstrates a range if there is one.
That only happened to you, JJ.
Yeah.
I think that only happened to you. We'll have to talk about that
Well,
after the show.
I've heard other producers say, I got this guy's demo and he went to the school and geez, when I hired him, he couldn't do what was on his demo.
David talks about David Goldberg at the studio talks about that a lot. How the talent will not match what they've presented themselves to be on their demo.
If that's the case, then maybe the demo is the problem. The demo should be a good representation of the talent's skills and abilities and range. I would say that I'm used to getting what I expect in that regard from demos. And I would not hesitate to talk with a talent prior to a session to make sure that we're on the same page if there's something that particular we're aiming for.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay.
Can we talk about me for 5 minutes?
Yeah, you had something you wanted to biatch about, didn't you?
All right. I don't know if anybody believes in Mercury being in retrograde.
Only if it's in a thermometer.
Is it?
This week has been horrific for me as far as like canceled sessions. I just had my third canceled session.
I love that.
Occur.
I love that.
Oh my! It is so frustrating, and it's I talk about this with my students to say that you have to have the toughness and the tenacity to keep plugging along. Because I lost a client this week that I had for years, that just fell off the face of the earth. Didn't tell the production company that they were done. Nothing.
Yeah, they don't call and say nice things like, gosh darn, it's been great working with you, but we're moving on to something. No. You just see somebody else doing it on the air and you go, oh, there goes 40 grand.
Well, I'm talking about, I probably did for this client for like 7-8 years.
Wow.
At least. But to not even contact the production company, that was mixing everything for you and taking care of it. Anyway, that I just found out that one of my bigger clients that I had a session with on Friday canceled. And then I had a session this afternoon canceled. So is it too early to start drinking? That's what I want to know.
Only if it's tequila.
Linda, did you ask anybody from the production company or anybody else involved with the project what went down?
Yeah, well, with the big one, they have no idea. They have been trying to reach the client. There's multiple people on the team that will not reply, basically. They've been trying for 2 weeks, 3 weeks at this point.
Gosh.
So just packed up. Bye-bye. We're done.
Yep.
We're done with this.
I think it does happen. Sometimes we don't know why or what. There are so many people involved with some of these projects that suddenly a committee has a different direction, and they don't always go to the trouble of letting everybody down the chain know what's happening, and sometimes we don't know. We don't find out about those things.
No, and it's
like,
rude.
I know for me, I don't know if it is rude. It's rude for the production company.
I would say generally it's a good thing to know that it's not a personal preference. Right. The fact that somebody was on the account for a while speaks volumes. Repeat business is the best. And
yes.
If somebody likes what you do and you enjoy providing that service for them, enjoy it while it lasts.
Yep.
It's the most wonderful type, but the most wonderful type of business, but the most painful when you
Oh
lose
God,
it.
it's just
Maybe it's a reminder to
Keep marketing.
to give extra special attention to those repeat clients.
David, the chocolates are on the
and,
way.
Send gifts. That I wanted to talk about that. That is typically the best way to get a gig is to send gifts, swag bags, you name it. We do
Wow.
accept cash. And
What about sheep? Slightly used.
Oh, gross!
Sorry, no, I didn't mean that way. Good Lord.
this
Goats are for
Linda,
that. Oh,
this
never
will
mind.
be edited. We'll do a little editing.
No.
After.
It's a podcast. I can say whatever I want.
Anyway, losing the clients this week has just been one of those big bummer weeks for me. And I know it's part of this business. It just is what it is. I don't take any of it personally, honestly.
How about this? How about the clients who say, "Yeah, I got something coming up for you in just like 4 or 5 weeks." That was 3.5 years ago. And every time I talk to him, he say, "Yep, just a couple of months now. We're going to get back on track." And then 2 more years goes by, and then you talk to him again. "Yeah, we're getting close." And I'm going, "Okay, they're not going to make the product anymore by the time you get to it. It's going to be outdated. So you just have to let it go." And I think that in this business, letting it go is the hardest thing.
It really is. It really is.
You know, you do an audition. Just forget about it. If you get it, they'll call. Sure. All right. You're staring down, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for 7 words. And sure.
I've gotten pretty good, though, about moving on from auditions because I don't even think about them after
No,
I
I
do them. It's
don't
just,
either anymore. I just
you
go
know,
out and make something in the wood shop.
even if it's a big one, I don't even think about it because when I booked a national way back when, and it was a big one, it was all based on basically a lottery win. Like I won the lottery. I would love to say it's, oh, your voice is so great and your performance, but that was not what it came down to. These 2 guys were I asked the guys in the session, I go, "Hey, why did you guys wind up picking me?" And they're like, "I don't know. You just sounded good." So that was the decision for me to get a $50,000 job. So when it comes to that, now I'm like, I don't even think about it because if it's really coming down to that much of a subjective decision, then go in, do your best, and wish it all well.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just been one of those.
Because you can
weeks.
also
It's
not
really-
get the gig for as a reason as is that stupid.
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever
Yes.
told you this story, but I think I've told David that I went in for an on-camera gig and I knew that I just did a great job. And I walked out of there feeling really good. A couple days later, I heard that somebody else got it. So I called the casting director and I said, "I blew that audition away." She said, "I know you did. The director and the producer were in here and the director said you got to choose last time."
and that was how
And the
they
producer
picked.
wanted me, but it wasn't his turn to pick. So, you know, do you find that, David? Sometimes you just hear something, in a voice and go, "Yep, this guy will work," that quickly?
It's very subjective, and it usually does happen quickly. I've done castings where we've had 50 people throw their hat in the ring.
God, I got to go
and-
get a hat. Let me write that down.
Get a hat.
No wonder I'm not booking anything.
It's rare that it's rare for us to cast that wide of a net. There are situations where we do cast that wide of a net. Usually we like to focus it to a few possibilities and narrow our search ahead of time. And that's where the demos come in. And that's where the first 5 seconds of your demo comes in.
Yep.
That first 5 to 10 seconds is the most important 5 to 10 seconds of your demo. And the same could be said for any audition.
Right. Right.
If I am thumbing through 50 auditions, I probably am not going to have the time to listen to each one of them in their entirety. And I'm generally going to know in the first 5 or 10 seconds if the audition I'm listening to is a potential match.
That's
and it
fast.
just comes down to that. It just comes down to that. If I like the first 5 or 10 seconds, I'll keep listening.
Yep.
But that is how long it takes generally to make a snap decision and decide whether to keep listening or move on. 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah. And see, we
So
sit
your
here
strongest talent needs to go first.
yeah.
I mean, as far as what you're
in
good
an
at, you know.
In an audition, absolutely. Something that will grab attention or showcase the sound of that voice. That is the biggest thing. Of course, there are other factors. After that first 5 or 10 seconds, we have to listen for any dialects or accents that might be slipping through or anything like that. I have cast for something for one region and had people submit with a completely different dialect, and it might be impossible to make something like that work.
David?
There are a
Interesting.
number of There are a number of factors that can be taken into account when deciding whether to do an audition. You might think that you have the perfect voice for it, but the question is would you hire you for that gig? If you would hire you as opposed to some other talent, then that's the audition to read.
Interesting.
Oh,
Very interesting.
Why were you laughing, JJ?
Because it was just reminding me of one of the students that called me through the Guru's site. And she said, hello. And I said, hi. And David was talking about, dialects and accents and stuff like that. And it was a guy. And he said, yeah, I want to do voiceovers. And I said, well, do you do Spanish? No, I want to do English. And then he started to go into this routine. He said, I would like to welcome you to Disney World. And I went, I can hear your accent, so it's probably not going to work in English unless you plan on going to a speech pathologist and having your uvula removed. You're going to have to do neutral Spanish. Do you speak that? Yeah, but I want to do English. So, 20 minutes later, I finally convinced the guy that it's just not... Hey, wait. Welcome to Disney World. And I kept... sometimes, yeah. And
if the accent is good...
yes, it can
and
work.
It's like,
sure.
It can work. But if they're trying to do something that they're not suitable for, it won't work.
No. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes... a suave type Latin read is an amazing thing. But the point of all that was that you've got to listen to the people who know what they're doing and the producers and the directors. This is a big game of listening. When David says, if he and I are doing a session together, you have to listen to him very carefully because he's going somewhere. And I feel that part of my job, I make it a game. It's a game. Let's make David happy. That's what I call the game. And the faster you can get to
I like the sound of that.
But the faster you can get to the end of the game where David says, that was the take, the more chance he's going to call next time.
Right.
If it takes 45 minutes to get one spot done and he's got 5 other spots piling up his back and emails coming in while I'm trying to get it right. But the key in this whole business is listening and deciphering what the producer is trying to say. And as we all know, when we get some of these descriptions to do these auditions, they go on for half a page. And by the time you get done, you think, who the hell am I supposed to be? They've overdone it. And then when you see the spot on television you didn't get, it's nothing like what they said in the first place anyway. So they just hear it and go, yeah, I like that. It could be as simple as that. But David is good at that. He's very good at getting into it.
I agree with during the sessions that I think it is a huge benefit if you can take direction well.
Yeah.
Because if, like you're saying, it's the same thing as listening. That's just another way to put
What?
it. Listening to what a producer suggests that they want to hear from you. And for God's sake, when someone says to you, give me 3 in a row, they cannot be the exact same read for all three,
No.
right?
David, do you ever get
Shake it
that? 3 in a row and they're all exact?
Shake it up. I do like it when I get 3 different inflections.
Yeah.
For example,
Yes.
JJ, I need a pickup on call now. Can you give me 3 versions of call now?
Right. Call now. Call now. Call now.
That's
Right.
great. That gives me 3 possibilities based on where I'm dropping that into the edit.
Right.
It has to interact well. It has to play well with the surrounding words if something came before that. So those options are hugely helpful.
Right.
What do you think about, David, with demos when somebody introduces themselves in the beginning of the demo?
I'm sorry.
I think that's fine. Generally, it sometimes is redundant because the information might be presented to me in the file name that I'm listening to. So sometimes it seems like a bit of a watermark. And in some cases, I do need to distribute those demos to a client, and your name might not make it into that edit when I'm demonstrating it. The clients aren't necessarily interested in the person's name. They're just interested in the quality of the voice,
Right.
and whether or not it's what they're looking for.
And nor do they have time, right? They want to just get through this. And hi, I'm J.T. Wilson. I'm 5'8". I collect foreign tennis balls, and I enjoy fishing at night. In the next 7 minutes, you're going to hear my, screw that. Get to the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Geez, get to the point. Anyway, so, go ahead,
Again,
David,
that
I'm
5
sorry,
to
I
10
didn't
second
interrupt.
rule.
That's an interesting thing, though. I mean, the whole process, David, of like the casting is so informative for people that are not, they're just getting started in this business. They don't understand what's happening on that end. But to know, here's a question for you. How do you like auditions labeled? Like if you don't specify how to label it.
If I don't specify how to label it, the talent name, definitely. If there's some way to include the script name or product name or something to help identify it, that's helpful. As long as it's clean and informative, I'm good.
1 take or 2 takes?
For an audition,
Yeah.
if there is a difference to the take, 2 is great. If there's a completely different take, some people will submit an audition and hit it a couple different ways. Maybe 1 take has a little bit more pace and intensity. Maybe there's a little bit different tone. It depends on the script. Some scripts, it's obvious this direction.
There's one way to read it.
There's one way to do it, and then 1 take is sufficient in that case. But if there's a couple different ways to hit it, there's nothing wrong with adding that in, keeping in mind that 5 to 10 seconds at the top is going to be the most important thing.
Oh,
Right.
that's great. Love it.
Yeah. This is great.
This is the
great.
info that everybody wants to know. And now they have the information from you. And David, you're offering at this point like 30-minute lessons because why? It's pretty intense, right? To go over a home studio with somebody.
There's a lot of information. We might need to break it up, break it down a little bit further into a couple of 15s. Just for
First, you need a mortgage broker.
There are steps. There are a lot of considerations when choosing your gear and your studio configuration and how you're going to use it. So we can take our time with some of those decisions for sure.
Awesome. So, but at any level somebody's at, even if they've went ahead and they bought a microphone, maybe, that they read about.
A USB microphone.
I know you don't like them. Meanwhile, I have Dave here at the studio that says it's not a problem to use initially. So there's like conflicting arguments on it.
Initially,
But-
maybe.
Generally,
but if you're,
generally,
Yeah.
it's not. It depends on the application, I would say, and it depends on the type of work that one is going after. For example, if somebody was auditioning for audiobooks, the best way to audition for that is to have the cleanest, nicest sounding recording to demonstrate that. If there's noise in the recording or it sounds like it's recorded on an iPhone, that's probably going to be an issue for anybody who's trying to cast for that type of project. Right. Having said that, if somebody wants to read an audition on a low quality mic while they're traveling or even reading into their phone on the road, that can work. For actual sessions, we'll definitely need broadcast quality if it's going out on the air.
Right.
And we're gonna be looking for certain qualities to the recording.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good to know. And everybody has a different
Yeah.
opinions. I know we released coming up actually in March. JJ's tip is, I think it's about USB mics for March. I'm not sure.
Yes.
It is, and how much you hate
Yes.
them.
Yes. I just, if you're just starting out, great. You don't want to spend the money till you figure out if you really want to do this. Wonderful. But the moment you do, you're competing with thousands of people who have good mics. And I've heard so many people, David has always been very complimentary on how my studio sounds. And I moved so many times, I
Yes.
just got good at it.
Yeah, you have moved a lot.
But some people, they have rooms that sound very, very roomy and a cheap mic. And you kind of, as once again, David said, the first 5-10 seconds, that's also what they listen for.
Right.
It's not just the read, it's the room. I got called the other day from an agent who said, all right, we're going to need to test your room because you moved. And I said, I've already done a session with you from this room. Oh, okay. All right. So we're good. But they actually wanted me to test it to make sure that they were happy with it.
Yep.
So that's how important it is to have a good sounding room.
I know when I was with HSN, they had settings on, in their system that were the Linda settings, basically. And if I
Right.
had to go down to Florida to see my folks, I would use Brian Lee's studio, his ISDN. So then we would have to take a good 15 minutes for them to, hear the room, tweak on their end so they could get the exact same sound for what was going to be going out on the air. So it's like these, producers have incredible ears. That's what, they hear everything.
Yes.
And the other thing too, some people are like, oh, I'm going to buy a processor and I'm going to put this on it and that on it. Yeah, I mean, I've always been told that you guys don't want that.
Don't do that to David.
Right? You want
Don't do that to
you want it
David.
just clean, right, David?
For what I do like it unprocessed. Processed as little as possible before I get my hands on it, and then that gives me flexibility to make any adjustments as I see fit.
Right. Can undo it if we send it that way.
If somebody time compresses something before they send it to me, I don't have the original at that point. If I need to make an adjustment or anything, it locks it in. Same thing for any EQ or dynamics processing. Some of that stuff, it's effectively locked into the recording. And it might not be what I'm looking for or the client's looking for as far as tonal quality. So I do prefer something that is very neutral, clean, natural sounding. If there is any processing, it would be just a minimal coloring that I'd be okay with.
Now, talking about time compression issues, like sometimes, especially with these car spots, sometimes they run so freaking long,
No.
I know, right? I mean, but I know what I do, and I know what JJ does. Usually if it's running so long, I call you guys or I email you and I go, hey, this is, and sometimes I'll read it at that speed and go, this sounds insane, but if this is what you want. So, but do you have a
Right.
preference on how you get when you have problems with the length of a spot, David?
Generally speaking, for example, a 60-second read. If something's coming in at 63 seconds, even with breaths removed, and I might not even need breaths removed prior to figuring out these measurements. But for example, 63 seconds, I can time compress that 5%, and it's usually not that big of a deal. Once we get past the 10% range, if something's 66, we might have to find a trim. We might have to find something to cut. Having said that, in my case, I would ask that the talent leave the time compression to me, because we might decide to put, the client might decide to put enormous time compression on the disclaimer and let the rest of the spot breathe, for example. Leaving out that processing gives us options in post-production.
Very, very nice. Nice. Wow, this is so informative. I feel like I'm relearning everything
Gosh.
myself right now.
Me too. What's your name? Oh, David Hughes. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to get some good guidance on your home studio, even if you haven't even started, you haven't even bought anything, whatever, feel free. He's listed on the website now, and you can book a half hour with him. And like he was saying, he'll break it up into segments for you if you haven't even bought anything. So you guys can talk for 10 minutes, discuss equipment and what's going to work for your studio. But, yay, I'm so excited that we have that aspect now on the website. Welcome, David. Welcome.
Welcome, David.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Linda.
This was awesome.
What about me?
Oh, JJ, we always love you. I think I'm going to wrap it up. If that's okay with you, JJ.
That's fine with me. Do you have the tape?
Oh, and we have two workouts for the month of March. It was suggested.
Oh, not the treadmill, though. No treadmill.
It was suggested that we do 2 online workouts. So we have one on March 4. Oh, of course, I'm not prepped. You thought it was last night, didn't you, JJ?
Well, I take a lot of medication, so.
We have one on March 4th, and we have one on Wednesday, March 18th.
And I am selling some of it, so if anybody needs anything,
and people
just
are
let me
already
know.
booking spots. We have a maximum of 6 people per workout. So if you want to join us, please book your spot ASAP. So that wraps up another episode.
And I think it would be fun if David was in on one of those.
That would be fun. Would you want to ever coach David?
Absolutely. I'd love to join you guys there.
Yeah, I'd like for you to actually maybe even read something and join the crew as well for the practice part. If you're up for it, of course, David, if you're up for it.
Good times.
All right, that wraps up another episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. And head over to the page, voiceover.guru, for more information, resources, and all that good stuff. Sign up for our newsletter as well. You'll hear JJ's fabulous tips and his opinions as well. All right, everybody, have a great,
Thanks, everybody.
great rest of your day. Bye.